G'day, ZiggyD here, and today I'm very excited to bring you a new kind of Path of Exile, my first ever hardcore death analysis. In this sporadic series of videos, I'm going to be taking particularly interesting or high-level deaths and breaking them down for you guys to see the mechanics at play that leads to these characters' deaths. Now, death is inevitable for every hardcore character in Path of Exile. It's just going to happen at some point if you keep playing that character. However, some people, they create builds that are very well done, and they're also very good players themselves, and they manage to make it to extremely high levels, like level 96 with this character we're going to be taking a look at today. The character we're taking a look at is Gankstaboo's Rain of Arrows Ranger, who, as I said, reached level 96, which for those of you who aren't familiar with the way the level progression works in Path of Exile, once you start getting past level 80 and into the 90s, it gets exponentially slower to level up. You can spend days on one level with hardcore grinding and not, progress more than a few bars. So 96 is quite a feat in and of itself. So before I continue, let's jump straight into this video here. Just switch over. Here we go. Yeah, still getting used to the new software there. And we'll take a look at this death just in one sitting first. Just show it through. So here we go.
Oh, reflex. Oh, whoa! What? Oh my god!
Alright, as you can see, a reflect death. Pretty sudden, pretty shocking. High level character. Look at the look on that face is heart-wrenching, that's for sure. And, this doesn't seem, that unusual. Plenty of people die to reflect. It's a very common mechanic. It's one that you're going to run into every now and then. However, what makes this death really shocking is that this is by no means the first reflect pack that Gankstaboo has encountered on this ranger. It would be impossible if he was dying to every reflect pack to have survived up to level 96. And that's because there's a lot more at play than just a simple reflect kill here. We've got a character with 8k life, and that seemingly has been able to deal with reflect up to this point just fine. So let's break it down and take a look at what else contributed to this death. So we'll just rewind back to here. And firstly, before we continue, we'll jump over to Gankstaboo's thread here. Now I'll link this and the actual death video from his stream in the description below, so make sure to check that out. Gankstaboo is a fantastic streamer. He comes very highly regarded, and everyone says he's a really cool dude. And plenty of people, were pretty distraught when this character died because he'd taken it so far and spent so much time on it, as I'm sure he is himself. So let's first take a look at his gear. Now he's playing a Rain of Arrows Ranger, and he does tons of damage. Firstly, he's using a high fizz damage bow, and he's using the cold conversion from Hatred. Because he has such a high amount of physical damage, that cold conversion is adding a substantial amount of damage. On top of that, he has a lot of extra damage on his gear. We can see increased elemental damage with weapons here. We can see a lightning damage mod on this one here. We can see fire and lightning damage mods on this one. We can see increased elemental damage with weapons here, and we can see extra damage mods on the gloves there, and nothing obviously on the boots. However, he's also using Alpha's Howl, which has, we should be able to see Wrath, Anger, and Hatred all linked in the Alpha's Howl, increasing the level of those aura gems by 2 levels. So they are level 22, Wrath, except for Wrath. They're level 22. I'm pretty sure he would have had a level 20 Wrath in there, so I don't know what's going on with that. He might have just switched it out at some point. But yeah, very, very high level auras in there, so contributing to that damage even further. Now, I would estimate that he does probably somewhere around 6k per hit, per cast of Rain of Arrows, which is pretty substantial. So with that in mind, as I said, it would seem like he would die to reflect all the time. However, his character also has excellent mitigation, and obviously hasn't died to every reflect pack up to that point, because he's been able to deal with reflect. So obviously, there's something else going on there. So let's break it down. Firstly, let's take a look at what we're seeing here. Now, the map mods on this particular map that he's in at the moment, we can't see up in the top screen, but I've checked it out. He listed it in his stream description very kindly. And we're looking at a physical reflect mod on the map itself. We have elemental reflect, which we can see if we play forwards. I'm just going to mute the volume. If we play forwards to here, we can see the outline of this reflect aura just there. And he comes around the corner, you only see it for that brief instance. However, someone in his party also recalled it as well. So we know that extra reflect is there. So we've got 2 times the reflect. Now remember, Gankstaboo's Ranger is doing both physical and elemental damage in quite high quantities. So, that's a pretty nasty combination by itself. But still, probably not enough to kill him. So, on top of that, we have minus map max resist. Now, this mod is pretty nasty, but still, obviously, you wouldn't have rolled this map if you didn't think it was something you could handle. Now, what this map mod does for your guys' information, the whole point of this video is to be as educational as possible, is that these minus map max resists actually reduce your resist cap. So even if you're overcapped, even if you've got like over 100% resist, where normally if you were cast, if you were cursed with elemental weakness, you would still have max resist. This actually reduces your max back, so you could end up with like 50% resist. Now, going from like 75 or 77 or 80 even, back to 50 or 60 is a really big drop, even though it only seems like 10 to 20%. It ends up being a huge amount less mitigation. So already we're starting to see these things culminate. We've got the Fizz Reflect doing a bit of damage, we've got the Elemental Reflect doing quite a bit of damage, and then the minus map resist stopping the mitigation of that damage. So all of this combines together. This would probably be enough to kill most characters, but still, maybe something this character could have survived. And if we play forwards a bit, and see how much damage he takes per hit. There we go. So I'll actually rewind this, and we'll do this frame by frame if possible. I've got to be a bit more clicky with my finger there. So the first hit, he takes about 4k damage, if we can get this exactly. There we go. He goes from 8 down to 4k, plus a little bit of energy shield. So down to 4k damage, 4k life there. So obviously he's mitigating a bit of his attack damage, but still taking quite a bit of it, probably more than he was expecting. Then the very next hit comes down, brings him down to 800 life, and then it's only a small amount left to finish him off. So taking quite a lot of damage there. Still, might have been able to survive if he was able to react in time to that. That's asking quite a lot, though, to react to something that happens in, under a second of actual video footage there. Now, there's also more going on here. On this very frame, we can see all of these mobs here are cursed with elemental weakness. This further increases the elemental damage that these mobs are going to take, and combined with elemental reflect, this is a nasty combination. So not only is he dealing, his normal amount of elemental damage and taking quite a lot of it back because of his reduced maximum resist, these mobs are also taking more elemental damage and reflecting more back to him. So even with his mitigation, he's taking still a ton of damage, as we can see by those 4k hits to his life. And now, the killing blow, I think, that really finishes this off. You see all of these mobs are on 1 hit point. All of their health bars are down, you can't see any life left on those. Now, normally, these mobs would have died and Gankstaboo would have survived. The reason they didn't is because, as you can see, they have this Invulnerability Aura. Now, I'm not sure if this is coming from a totem. I can't see any totems there. I think it's probably coming from a rare mob somewhere back here. So, what this means is, when you attack an enemy with Reflect, and when you attack an enemy with Reflect and it dies, you stop taking Reflect damage. It's dead, it can't reflect any more damage back to you. That's usually a cap on the amount of damage you can take. If you can kill enemies and survive your own Reflect and they die, no problems. And this is probably what's happened every single point up till now. Now, this combination of elemental weakness, double reflect, minus resist, is very nasty and probably almost enough to kill him. But the final finishing blow is the fact that these mobs don't die and they continue reflecting damage back to him. Especially because if we go back like a little tiny bit here, we can probably bring it back until he has about 800 life left. There we go, it's 800 life left. A lot of these mobs would have died, and maybe you might have survived that. That might be a little bit of a stretch, but in general, all of these mobs still that aren't dead now. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 that I can see in this frame should be dead from their previous attack, and yet they continue to reflect damage, beyond the point where they normally would have died. So, very nasty combination of things led to this particular death. It's one of those things that it's very hard to know this sort of thing, because this is the sort of combination that you're only going to encounter once every so often, but it still displays these mechanics really excellently. So we've got resist from we've got reflect from the map, physical reflect. We've got elemental reflect from an aura there, which we saw just briefly. We've got minus map max resist. We've got elemental weakness, and then we've got mobs cannot die. 5 things going into this particular death, not to mention a high damage dealing character. So, very, very interesting death. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the analysis, and maybe if you take something from this, you start to see things like, oh, I've got reflect on this map, and this mob pack also has reflect. I should be very careful of that. Or maybe this mob pack has reflect and it's also invulnerable. I should be very careful with this pack. So maybe any of these sorts of combinations can be very devastating, and maybe you also learn to not cast elemental weakness on your pack when you might end up killing your party if you do that. So be very careful if you're casting elemental weakness curse on reflect packs. But yeah, hopefully you guys take something from this. Let me know if you enjoyed this new type of video, because I'm pretty keen to do some more. There's quite a few interesting deaths out there that I can take a look at, and this would be a series I'd like to do semi-regularly. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.